This Airbnb I'm staying in is costing me $379 per night. It's a 4th floor walk-up, which means there's no elevator. You have to lug your suitcase up the stairs. The walls are pretty thin. I can hear when the neighbor coughs. But hey, this is just New York. But is New York still worth it for visitors or people living here?
And New York is still the most expensive rental market in the US.
And a new study shows that New York is losing residents.
Well, living in the city has always been expensive, but not quite like this.
New York is the most expensive city in America. Rents keep climbing, housing feels out of reach, and remote work has changed everything. Sure, salaries tend to be higher here, but does that really matter if you're spending all of it?
The average home ownership rate across the United States is 66%. But compare that to New York City, where it's only 30%, meaning that if you want to establish wealth or have an investment in your home, it's going to be a lot less likely you can do that in New York. So is New York still worth it? The median home price of a home in New York City is $852,000.
As of Q1 2025, the median asking rent in New York City was $3,397 per month. That's up 5.6% year on average. And looking per borough, Manhattan's median hit nearly $4,500, Brooklyn over $3,700, Queens over $3,200, and even the Bronx jumped over $3,000. Another report pegs the citywide average at $3,966 per month, which is 144% above the national average. Meanwhile, Listings.com says the average rent today is around $4,031 per month. That's more than 148% higher than the US norm. But what does that mean in real life? Well, if you follow the rule that you should spend 30 to 40% of your income on rent, well, then you'd need roughly $160,000 per year to afford that comfortably. But in Manhattan, the number's even higher, around $180,000 per year. But so many people in New York say that 30 to 40% rule is for non-New Yorkers, because here in this city, a more realistic target is 40 to 50% of your income going to rent. So why is it so expensive? Well, to start off, look at Manhattan. It's an island, which inherently means there's very limited space to build. You can't build out, so you gotta build up. And given how old this city is, it's pretty hard. And here, there is a chronic shortage. Vacancy levels in 2023 were a historic low, about 1.4%, the lowest since 1968. And then there is zoning and slow development. Pre-2010 growth, there was only 4% more housing despite 22% more jobs. And programs like Housing New York have lagged, crashing hopes for large-scale affordable units. Okay, back to my Airbnb, which apparently is now sort of banned since 2023, because New York implemented a local law 18, which essentially prohibits people from renting out your property for less than 30 days.
New York is going to begin enforcing a new law that regulates Airbnb rentals in New York,
unless you're physically present during the guest's stay. But some properties are sort of just getting around that or doing it anyway.
So this is actually considered spacious for New York. I used to live in New York, so I understand the standards here. Like, if you're able to walk this much, that means that it's really spacious in New York. But I can't stop thinking about the fact that I spent about $200 a night for a Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. You can also, for $350, literally stay in a Ritz-Carlton in Dubai, which is notoriously known as an expensive city. So it just really stings when you have to pay this kind of money for this. But of course, you're not paying for the home itself, you're paying for the location.
There's been a noticeable shift in recent years. New York is no longer the default capital for ambitious young professionals. Cities like Miami are stepping in with a tempting offer: no state income tax, lower cost of living, palm trees, and a booming tech and finance scene. While New York still holds cultural weight and global prestige, Miami has become a serious competitor, especially for remote workers and startups. In 2023, Miami had the highest net migration of any major US city, while New York City saw a continued population decline. Office buildings may be glossier in Manhattan, but in Miami, you're more likely to find a waterfront co-working space with a smoothie bar, and no $380 per night walk-ups to climb at the end of the day. Before 2020, New York City was built around one major daily ritual: millions of people pouring into Manhattan every morning to work in offices and then leaving again at night. That tidal wave of commuters powered everything from corner coffee shops to the billion-dollar transit system. But once remote work hit, that rhythm was broken, and the city is still figuring out what the new beat sounds like. Let's start with the numbers. Today, most office workers in Manhattan are spending 30% less time in the office than they did pre-pandemic. That may not sound huge, but across the city, it adds up to a loss of over $12 billion in local spending. That's less money at the bodega, fewer lunches out, and a big hit to dry cleaners, restaurants, and subway fare collections. Even the city's tax revenue is taking a hit. The New York City Comptroller estimated that lower office attendance is costing the city about $111 million in annual sales tax. And yes, that is after accounting for residents spending a bit more in their neighborhoods. But this isn't just about economics, it's about energy. Walk through Midtown or the financial district on a Tuesday and you'll feel it. The streets are quieter, the vibe is different. Some companies have tried pulling workers back. Big firms like WPP and JP Morgan now require 3 or 4 days in the office, citing better collaboration and productivity. Still, it's a tug of war. Many employees are resisting a full return. Meanwhile, neighborhoods in Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx have been buzzing. These areas where more remote workers now spend their weekdays have foot traffic at just about 85 to 90% of pre-COVID levels, actually higher than Manhattan's recovery. The city is decentralizing, and for local businesses outside of the city core, that's actually a good thing. But the long-term question is this: what happens to all the empty or unused office space? And what does the city lose when fewer people gather in the same place every day? Remote work gave flexibility and freedom, but it has also cracked the foundation of how New York City has worked for over a century. And now the city has to decide, does it try to bring back the old rhythm or build a new one? New York's office buildings have always been iconic, but lately many are sitting mostly empty. As of 2024, even the offices that are leased aren't fully used, with many running at maybe just 50% capacity during the week.
Manhattan's commercial real estate crisis is getting worse.
94 million square feet of empty office space in Manhattan. That is an all-time record.
Now, current availability has dropped to 17%. That's a big improvement from 20% just a year ago. But what gives? Well, remote work is the big reason, but companies are also downsizing their space because they don't need huge offices when employees come in for fewer days. Plus, almost 47 million square feet of Manhattan office space is now considered outdated or unappealing. Converting offices into apartments sounds good, but it's tough because these buildings were not built for living. Deep floor plans and limited plumbing make conversions expensive and complicated. Landlords are feeling the pain too. Office property values in Midtown have dropped by as much as 40%, which means less tax revenue for the city. Commercial property makes up nearly 20% of New York City's budget. So what's next? Some landlords are upgrading offices with fancy amenities to attract tenants back. Others are exploring new uses like co-living or art spaces. But for now, office space is one of New York's biggest challenges.
People often see this as a city for really making it, but with so many prices going up across the board here, is that now even financially possible?
So here's the case for New York City. First, you have opportunities. Industries like finance, media, and tech, and art are concentrated here, and you never know who you're gonna meet. Also, the energy and the culture, the museums, Broadway, 24/7 action. Here, your weekends aren't Netflix binges, they're Central Park bike rides, Chelsea Market runs. You have many people like Kelsey who paid $3,200 a month to be in a small studio with no oven, but still say it's worth it. So the case against New York is the cost. You're racing to keep up with $4,000 per month rent, high bills, and your travel budget slashed. Remote flexibility. Why pay premium if your job doesn't demand it? You can get way more space in cheaper cities. And finally, an uneven recovery. Some neighborhoods bounce back fast, others lag, hurting small business and culture. So personally, I would say ask yourself, if career is key, New York City can be worth the investment. If your job is remote or hybrid, ask if New York City's advantages really justify the expense, because the answer is probably no. And can your income match the lifestyle? Earning $160,000, well, $4,000 rent per month might fit, but most earn less, which means spending so much money that you can actually be investing is gonna sting hard. New York is the ultimate city for ambition, creativity, and energy. I once lived here for more than 5 years, but it is expensive and the pandemic reshaped who it serves. Today, unless you need the pulse of New York work, career, and culture, you're probably overpaying, and not for a good reason. That doesn't mean love for New York is dead. It just means we need more honest conversations about who it's for and whether it's still worth it for you.
Let me know what you think below. While you're at it, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this.